Breaking up societal structures like the family, turning kids against their parents. All of this is coming out of US universities. Idea of teaching very young children about transgenderism, body dysmorphia, gender fluidity, all that kind of stuff. And actually, the most disturbing one of all, this attempt to normalize paedophiliacs by referring to them as MAPs, minor attracted persons, because it's a condition and shouldn't be prejudged. Where is all of that taking us? And if these ideas infiltrated into Indian society, what would that do to the indigenous community structures?
So we have a way of looking at everything which is peculiarly dharmic and peculiarly Hindu and Sanatani, and that is to look beyond Nam Roop and to look at Tattva. That is to look beyond name and form and to look at the essence. And when you see the essence, that's where you get an indication of what is real and what is Satya. Our tradition has always been, look for Satya, seek Satya in everything. If you have a look at this thing called woke, it doesn't look for Satya. It's all about name and form. It's all about that shallow level which can be used to manipulate, divide and rule identitarian politics. And if you want to destroy a society, what you have to do is to leverage its own capacity to destroy itself. This is an old strategy. Machiavelli, the Romans, if you study The Art of War, if you study the British statements in Hansard in the House of Lords, divide and rule is a perfectly valid way of destroying a coherent society. You create rifts between the old and the young. You create rifts between the genders. You create rifts between any identity group possible. It's a simple strategy to create conflict. And so we as Bharatiyas, we would look at, okay, what's the way forward to get back to a stage where human beings are actually not fighting each other, where they're engaging with each other with harmony, where they're engaging with difference as diversity as opposed to the source of conflict. That's the path forward to get out of this. The path forward is never to look for peace whilst maintaining identity hierarchies and differences and creating conflict. Our contribution to it would be to look deeply at everything, to look at what children are being taught, to look at the manner in which human beings have been successfully evolving into happy societies for a long period of time. Thailand has, and Myanmar, they have gross domestic happiness as a measure of the health of the society. I would suggest that if America adopted that lock, stock and barrel, it might be able to learn something rather than saying that these ideologies which have just sprung up recently and emerged from the random mentation of people who have healthy minds and unhealthy hearts, they could learn an enormous amount and a great deal of damage could be undone. How to live in the body, how to live with a mind, your own mind, and to keep it stable and healthy, how to keep the body healthy, how to keep heart healthy. All of these are Eastern sciences. We have established them in abundance. It's, again, one of those long established sort of stereotypes is that the world used to come to Bharat to find themselves. People would come to find themselves. And what they were trying to escape from? Identity, name and form, in search of the true self. And so we have more to teach them about this. And it's provable. It can be replicated. It can be process and workflow defined. And we should give this to them. Whereas everything that has emerged under this wokeness has not generated happiness, has not created tranquility, even in the people who have chosen to identify themselves as identity important beings, as opposed to what we would say the inner self, which is the most important. We have more to teach them about this. They have nothing to teach us, and it's something that we should really work to try and heal them from.
Yes, and just to add to that, I've heard of cases in the US where if a child acts in a gender ambivalent manner, which is perfectly normal for very young children, and if the parents don't support it, social services can get involved and even take the child away if the parents don't get on board. And you see all these instances of gender operations on children, many of whom are now suing the doctors and the institutions. And I don't know if you heard that the well-renowned Tavistock Clinic in the UK was shut down last year because of scandalous ideological malpractices around gender operations. I mean, it's just a bit crazy.
Navitaji, this is actually a shadow cast by a much, much more worrying trend. Human rights have eventually evolved to the place where a human being has bodily sovereignty, that you are a being with your own sovereignty and your own choices about what can be done to you and done without you. That was extended to family sovereignty. Right? Parents were the prime carers for the child. In America, during times of slavery, the African Americans, they were denied bodily sovereignty, family sovereignty, community sovereignty. The state could be called in to demand that they behave in a manner which effectively was against every human right that we have struggled to secure. And so these notions that a child is more a property of the state, these are extreme notions which have never generated wealth, prosperity, and happiness. These are the notions which have always led to fascism. They've always led to enslavement, the denial of human rights, the reversal of social evolution, the complete dismantling of justice mechanisms. It becomes about ownership of a human being, and that is slavery. So the people who are adhering to this, I would suggest that they look a little bit deeper at what slavery actually means. If you don't have human autonomy as a being, as a divine being, if you don't have sovereignty over what can happen to your body, if you don't have freedom to explore thoughts and learn from them, if you don't have the freedom to talk to each other and learn from each other and make mistakes with each other and thereby grow as a human being, then already slavery is present. It's just a question of it being named, and I'm happy to name these as old, worn, tired out ways in which one human being or a group of human beings enslaves another human being. And, we have to recognize that the West is built on slavery. The current structures of global governance are all built on slavery. There is not one European nation which didn't benefit from slavery. There is not one religion which didn't benefit from slavery in terms of the Abrahamist religions. And so, these are very simple to understand issues, so long as you have the right concept set. And so I'm gently trying to suggest that what we're seeing is actually slavery returning, but hiding under the guise of all of these virtue signaling concepts, none of which are believed or adhered to by those who are peddling this.
Yes, and if history is anything to go by, education is where the seeds are first sown. So I guess, the saying that beware of Greeks bearing gifts seems quite relevant. I mean, these Ivy Leagues could well be a Trojan horse. We know that they might look great on the surface, but really underneath there's a different agenda. And the Trojan horse didn't work out too well for the city of Troy, so beware.
Navitaji, you're absolutely spot on. And, if anything, academics, their role is to scrutinize, is to study, is to try and understand. This is what academics are really, that's their raison d'etre. And any academic who is scrutinizing this issue of Western educational establishments coming into Bharat, into India, with free reign, that academic would come to the same conclusions that we have come to. We have not put anything on the table which is inappropriate. And a study of the nature, of the capacity, of the recent history, of the activities, of the literature produced by these institutions, all of those facts give rise to supporting your hypothesis that are these institutions Trojan horses who do not have the best interests of the Indian citizens at heart. I would say at this point in time, on the basis of our cursory exploration of this theory, the theory seems to hold good. This is a valid hypothesis, and it should be scrutinized by academics with a greater degree of attention than I suspect it has been to date. Yes, beware of Greeks bearing gifts, and beware of American institutions and $53 billion endowment funds equally bearing gifts.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.